Welcome to another edition of On the Road with Ice Castle. I'm your host, Rick Anderson. We share stories, we talk fishing, just a lot of stuff about how you use your ice castle, and then general information about just fishing and things you like to do in the outdoors. First of all, we'd like to start off and thank our sponsors. We'd like to thank Granite City Motor Car out of St. Cloud. And of course, they also have a new location in Ramsey. You can shop either one of them if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, something to pull your ice castle with. A great opportunity to connect with those guys over there. And then the great people up at Reed Sporting Goods up in Walker. If you want anything for your ice castle, anything in the great outdoors, guns, and all you can think of as far as what you would use fishing in the great outdoors. So today we are with Alex Boutch, and Alex has some great stories to tell us. You hear a lot of stories about people living in tiny houses out there. There's lots of tiny house living that's going on. It's kind of the new thing. And so we thought we'd talk a little bit about tiny ice castle houses, and not so tiny, but kind of tiny. And the reason is that Alex, who's with me today, lived in his ice castle. For how long did you live in your ice castle?
Nearly 4 years.
Nearly 4 years. And so first of all, let's start off with your first ice castle, what was it?
So the first ice castle that I purchased was a 2015 model. It was a 8x21 foot with a V. It was coined the Rodfather, so it had tandem axle hydraulic frame, and very similar to the new models that are out there. It's very comfortable, a lot of nice amenities in it. Set up essentially as a camper, but dual purpose, being you can use it in the winter.
So you were, how did you come up with the idea? Well, first of all, you took your ice castle out to the oil fields in North Dakota, isn't that right?
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about how you came up with the idea.
So when I finished college, I majored in construction management, and one of the first jobs that I sought out was a project management position with Central Specialties. They're out of Alexandria, Minnesota. They primarily do a lot of work, road construction, heavy highway work, out in the western part of North Dakota and South Dakota. So when I approached them for the job, I received it right away. They said, all right, we're shipping you out west. Out there, it's very rural, so it's hard to, plan accordingly and have all the amenities of home with you. So a lot of times you're living out of a bag in a motel, night to night, which again becomes very tough. Planning your food, your clothing, any extracurricular hobbies that you might have outside of work. So it's a very difficult aspect. That's where I felt that an ice castle kind of fit that niche, and really had more of a benefit for me, being I could, essentially be right on the job site. I could bring all the amenities of home. I had my own personal space. I had a full setup for, cooking, cleaning, everything like that. It was all, wherever I was going, it was coming with me.
So that is really cool. How did you come up? So you got the job. How did you come up with the idea to get an ice castle, and why did you decide ultimately to take that route?
So I'd say the majority of their employees, they did a similar approach, but many of them had campers, being most of those guys are seasonal. They're out there during the summer months when it's warm out. So they take their campers with them. They can do the same thing where they're living right on side the job, not having to commute every morning from a hotel. But for me, I really enjoy ice fishing and winter activities, so I figured, as nice as ice castles are getting these days, why spend the money on a camper that sits for half the year, and why not, spend it on an ice castle that you get use all year round.
And did you notice, you obviously had to notice a big difference in just the insulation and the wear quality and things. It's just built a little bit more ruggedly.
Absolutely.
For that, right?
Absolutely. So generally our season ran from, beginning of April probably until mid to late November. So you definitely saw, the extremes of the weather, from the 100-degree days down to the 20 below days out there. So that was a huge benefit for me, especially in the cold, being that I'm sitting on the ground, everything's fully insulated. It's built to use during the winter months in those cold temperatures. So immediately you could tell a difference between, when I'd have guys over in my fish house completely comfortable in that weather versus going into their camper and it's 50 degrees and the heater struggling to stay running.
Yeah, that is really cool. Although I'm sure there's some challenges that go along with it. What types of challenges did you find?
A few of the challenges, I guess. I mean, it is definitely not as lavish or as luxurious now. I mean, they are getting quite a bit more extreme these days, but the earlier ones, they probably didn't have as nice a setup or as many amenities as a camper would have with multiple slide outs and more living space, a full kitchen with an island or that kind of nature. So you're a little bit limited in what you get for creature comforts. But I know, I mean, with the new models they have nowadays, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, you can get all those same luxuries. And I don't know about you, Alex, but nothing against traditional RV. But one of the things I really like about an ice castle is you drop down right onto the ground.
Yep.
And when you do that, you obviously you're not getting the wind coming up like you would on a regular RV, but you also don't get that shake and movement. Did you find that too?
Absolutely, yeah. So that was one of the biggest concerns that many of those guys had was we'd get a big windstorm. I mean, western North Dakota, flat as a pancake, no trees, there's no wind breaks, so you get a big windstorm of 40, 50 mile an hour gusts, and I'd say probably a handful of times where I remember people who were staying in their campers would get out and sleep in their pickup truck for the night because their camper would be sitting there rocking and they're worried that it's going to tip over, blow away, and sitting on the ground, you're solid as a rock.
Yeah, that's really cool. What so you basically would be out there for how many months did you say of the year? Like
generally we went from beginning early April until late November.
And that was that like by Dickinson area kind of? Or?
Yep. Yeah, I'd say I spent most of my time in the Dickinson area, Watford City, Williston, so far western edge of North Dakota.
And how far did you get a chance to head up to Devil's Lake at all and do some of that world-class fishing while you were out there?
I did not, unfortunately. No. When we were out there, it was pretty much all work and no play. So that was a one downside to being out that way, but. That comes with that line of work.
What do you figure? Did you ever do the math on how much you saved by going that route versus being in a motel or maybe even a house? I mean, housing then went just skyrocketed.
Yeah,
you couldn't even find it, could you?
Yeah, I guess I never ran the numbers on what I saved, but essentially the way I look at it is, at the end of the 4 years, I had an ice castle that was paid for and sitting in the driveway instead of money spent at a hotel. So.
And you obviously like to fish too?
I love it. One of my favorite hobbies.
Yeah. Did you fish much out of that? Or has it mostly been since you moved back that you've been able to take advantage of fishing?
So I guess in the winter months, I was living back at home, so I had, the weekends and stuff to go out and fish. So I did get quite a bit of use out of it, yeah, once we kind of slowed down and got off the road.
That's really interesting. So since then, you've been back. How many years have you been back here? You live in the central Minnesota area?
Yep, I live in central Minnesota now, and I've been back home, I guess, for almost 2 years now.
What, do you still have that one?
I do not. Nope, I sold that one spring of 21. So
okay. Did you re-up?
I did. I replaced it with a newer model, essentially the same size fish house, but a few more creature comforts and whatnot that come with the new models.
Well, that's pretty cool. So what was it? Do you remember what the name of your first model was?
Yep. So that one was coined the Rod Father.
Oh yeah, you said that, the Rod Father.
It was a hybrid extreme. And their coin name was Rod Father.
Okay, cool. And then what did you end up getting this time around?
So the new one that I have now is a 2020 model. It's a 8x21 Itasca Extreme.
Okay. What type of amenities did you load up with that?
Stainless steel fridge and freezer, stainless steel stovetop, microwave, full shower, full bathroom, electric lift bed, jackknife sofa. Got a couple of TVs mounted in there now. I have an Xbox mounted in there. Not really short of any creature comforts on this one.
Yeah. Did you have you had it out yet this year?
I have not this year. No, this coming Friday will be the first weekend that I'll get out with it.
You got planned? Where are you going?
I'd probably head up to Red Lake. I finally got enough ice up there this year, and I've been itching for the last probably 3 weeks now to get out, and finally safe enough to do so.
Well, you won't be disappointed. I think the fish are biting. At least we were just up there not so long ago. We were up there for the ICOG event. Didn't get a chance to fish the ICOG event too much, but we just because we were talking to people and doing some podcasts and stuff. But the first time we were up there, we did pretty well. It was that first real at the end of that first real cold snap, and kind of the first time to get on the ice. And we went in the east side of the lake and went out with cookies up there. But the ice was a little bit thin yet down south, so we stuck to the east side, and we had some good fishing action. But where are you gonna head out of?
I'd probably go out of Greater Minnesota.
Okay,
It's one of my preferred resorts to go out of.
yeah, Captain Dave, Marlis, both great people. We that was actually our first trip up. We stayed there, and we weren't able to get out. We were land based, so
Sure.
we did some in our first podcast from up there. We got several people on, but we stayed on shore. But it was a good time. Captain Dave, if you had a chance to talk to him, he's a knowledge of information.
I have a few times, yep. So my grandfather actually is fairly good friends with him. So that's kind of how we got introduced, and I always enjoyed time spent with him.
He's a little camera shy though.
A little bit.
I tried to get him on. But Marlis pulled through. Have you met Marlis?
I've not, no.
Great person. Lots of stories as well. Good connection up there. And what's your go-to up there? What do you like do you like crappies, or you like walleye, or whatever bites? Or
I guess probably like most people, I go up there to target walleyes, and if you get a crappie or perch, it's just a bonus.
yeah. Although those crappies have been, I don't think they've been super strong yet. At least the people that I've talked to this year. But I'm sure there's plenty of people that have caught them. We did well on walleyes, but not so much the crappies. And that's one of the nice things about red. You kind of never know what you're gonna get. What do you have a favorite lure that you like to use up there? You got a go-to lure?
Not to give away my secret, but
Well, go ahead. Lisa, I need all the help I can get.
Usually I do pretty well on a dead stick with a plain red hook and a fathead minnow. That's probably one of my top producing lures.
You got a group of guys you take up there with here, or what's?
Once in a while, yep. I got a few coworkers that we usually try to make a couple trips up there every year. But I'd say more than average, it's my girlfriend and I and the dog.
Okay.
Go and spend the weekend. And
Does your girlfriend like to fish, or does she just sit and watch TV? Or
she likes the summer fish more than she likes the winter fish, but having, like I say, all the creature comforts of an ice castle definitely entices her a little more than going out in a pop-up and freezing. So.
she probably outfishes you too.
Yeah, once in a while. Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually the way it goes. Sadly, sad to say, but at least it keeps them coming back if
That's
they
right.
catch fish. So what? So you since you moved back, you bought a new ice castle. What, you got a new job? Are you still working for the same company, or you?
Nope. So I switched jobs. I'm now at a local renewable energy company here in central Minnesota. I'm in the office there full time doing some estimating for them. So
Okay.
got off the road, out of the field, and into an office position.
You like the
also.
office job, or you?
I do. It has its perks. I really enjoyed the field work, so that was really tough to leave that and pursue something different. But having the time outside of work for the hobbies and friends and family is definitely one of the biggest perks of getting off the road.
What do you like? What, when you were on the road? What was a typical day for you?
Typical day. We'd usually start about 6 a.m. and we'd run till about 8 p.m. I don't know if I could say I had a typical day because everything was so dynamic and diverse that there's constant changes. But most of the time it was long, grueling days that was never short of any challenges.
Do you stay in touch with? Is there anyone still like that you stay in touch with out there that's still working out there?
Yep, I do. I'd say I have probably a handful of people that I still keep pretty close contact with. I actually just went out to Montana snowmobiling with one of my former coworkers. So we just had a 3-day trip out there trying to ride some sleds in the mountains. So there are definitely quite a few people that I try and keep contact with.
Was you had to have met a lot of interesting characters out there?
For sure. And that was probably one of my favorite parts of the job. I spent a lot of time interacting with landowners and different county officials, different city officials and stuff like that. And you get anything from the far extreme on one side to the far extreme on the other, and everybody in the middle. So that was one of my favorite parts of the job. And one of the coolest things I think about it was, it seems like no matter where you went, it was almost like stepping back, 20, 30 years in time. Just all the locals out there, all the small towns, it seemed like a totally different world out there.
Did they accept you? Like, did they enjoy having you out there, or was there a little bit of did the local population, the original local population, kind of, not really like all the activity and attraction out there?
I'd say for the most part, the majority did appreciate us being out there. The one downside to that is with the oil field and all the activity that they had, there were quite a few negatives that came with it just due to the sheer number of people and the amount of work that was going on in there. We always tried to, delegate us away from the oil field. We weren't any part of that. We were essentially we were there to fix the repercussions of the oil field traffic and all that, because, they saw just a huge influx of, people, traffic, money, and there were a lot of the, essential infrastructure related items that kind of got pushed to the wayside because they're so focused on that oil that, many of the towns, the roads, the highway, they all were beat down.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of there to rejuvenate those.
Did the downfall, I don't want to say downfall because it's still going, but did the slowdown, was it like a fast slowdown, or was it kind of a gradual slowdown?
I don't know if I could speak real great to that. I guess we were kind of there at the tail end from everything that I've seen and I've learned from people being out there. It was pretty drastic. I think it was a pretty fast dive off into nothing. I know at the tail end of my 4 years out there, it was starting to ramp up a little bit again and kind of get to a normalized, pace of production. But I think it's very good, and I was very fortunate that I missed the peak of the oil field days, because from what I've heard, it was kind of a whole other world out there.
The wild, wild west, as they call it. So the slowdown was directly proportionate to the price of oil, right?
Yep.
Pretty much, like,
Yep.
as the oil prices came down, and now have they seen, as the oil prices, have they got up far enough where that has come back some, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think they finally stabilized enough where it's worthwhile for large companies, large refineries, to start purchasing oil from the U.S. again and producing it as well. So
You have to think that a lot of people built things out there and invested money in buildings and hotels and motels and, supermarkets and all that. And, when that just dropped off quickly, like, oh no, now what are we going to do?
Yep, for sure. Yeah, you saw a lot of the remnants of the oil field boom. A lot of hotels, motels. There were a lot of man camps out there that they had set up where it was almost like a carport you'd set up for your vehicle, but extrapolated 10 times to house hundreds of people. So you saw the kind of the ghost town remnants of that. But there's a lot of infrastructure out there that is just sitting empty.
Just a reminder, if you just tuned in, this is On the Road with Ice Castle, and Alex Boutch is my guest here today. And we just were talking to people about their interesting stories, and Alex has been telling us a little bit about his story of living out in western North Dakota out of his ice castle, and for quite a long time. And for, what did you say again, 4 years?
Almost 4 years, yeah.
So he lived out of his ice castle for 4 years, and I can honestly say I'm sure that had its challenges, but obviously the ice castle held up to the test.
Absolutely.
And you had to have. Tell me a couple stories. You got some good stories from out there that you care to share? Who was the most interesting person that you met out there? Just like caveman, or someone that just had some unique qualities that you just would only find out there. You don't have to say names.
Yep. Okay. So I'd say probably the most unique person that I met out there, he was a temp worker for us at the time. So being in heavy highway construction, a lot of times we would run, a 15 to 20 mile stretch of highway that we would be doing work on one lane or the other. So we'd have to have road closures or traffic control set up to delineate that traffic to keep our guys safe. So one of the flaggers that we had as a temp worker, he was I believe he was 72 at the time, and he was full of stories, and seemed like he came from a whole nother world, I guess, with the stories that he told. He was from, I believe, Georgia is where he was originally born, moved up to Minnesota. He had many stories about, I don't know what I could say, but he was just full of character. And every time you saw him, I mean, he was the oldest one out there on the job, and he was probably the first one there every morning. He always came with a good attitude. Never had to worry about him not showing up, not calling if he ran into an issue, and was always there to put a smile on your face. And he was a very, very hardworking man.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's awesome to see someone with a great attitude like that coming in every day. Yeah, I would imagine that a lot of the people tried to get home, had wife and kids and things. What was the average? How often did people, let's say someone lived in Georgia, how often would they on average get home during that time?
I would say they went home probably at the end of the season. Most people, if they were coming from out of state like that, ways away, they were there to work for the season.
Yeah. I obviously paid pretty good money, to do so. But I remember, flying quite a bit out of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and they had I can't remember if it was, it would have been Dickinson, right, for the airport? Is that
Dickinson is.
Yeah, or Minot maybe? Or
Minot has one as well.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I think Dickinson and Minot seem to have a lot of flights. I wonder if they're still going pretty strong. As many flights are probably cut off a little bit, I would imagine.
I would imagine, yeah. So the one unique aspect to what we were doing is we didn't have anybody that flew back and forth. Everybody that was there moved there for the summer, for the season. So anybody that went home, they were within driving distance basically to run on the weekends.
What was an average work week? Did you get a lot of overtime? And
yeah, most of the guys did quite a bit of overtime. We ran it was basically a 10.5 day on, 3.5 day off schedule. So we'd work Monday to Sunday, do a half a day Sunday, which was 8 hours. That was a half a day.
Wow.
And then we'd work Monday through the following Thursday, and again work about a half day Thursday, and then anyone that was going home would take off and beeline for home.
So you were, being a young guy just out of college, you didn't have time to really spend the money, and you made a lot of money. So
it was putting it in the bank or putting it in the pocket, and saving basically to pay for one of these. So
yeah. Any other stories that stand out?
From working out there, not really, but I did find a few ways to use my ice castle outside of work and outside of fishing. We actually did take it on a trip or two out to Montana snowmobiling. So the model that I had was a toy hauler model at the time.
Nice.
And the one trip, I think there was 6 of us that went out. So we took one pickup. We had a sled deck on the pickup with 2 snowmobiles and a snow bike. And then inside my fish house, we had 3 mountain sleds packed in there.
You could get 3 sleds in.
We got 3 in there, yep. We had to take the skis off of one, but other than that, we could pack 3 of them in there. So we definitely put it to full use, and there was no shortage of keeping up with us.
Yeah, did you pull it with a 3/4 ton?
We did. We had a 1-ton diesel.
1-ton diesel. Yeah, that's what we have. They really pull these things.
They do. Yep. That one there with everything being, we had all of our gear, gas, clothing, all the 2 snowmobiles and snow bike on a steel sled deck. So it was about maxed out on capacity. So you had to be a little careful, especially making it was about a 16+ hour drive for us.
Yeah,
coming out of central Minnesota.
It is amazing though. I think this is the bear cave. What do you think of the bear cave?
I like it. It's very nice. It's very similar to the one I have now. I like the open floor plan. That's huge for me. It just makes the house feel so much bigger and so much more inviting.
Yeah, I've said this on a couple of other podcasts that it's what I really like is, obviously we have a studio in here, but what I really like is these chairs. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be a popular way to go because you can move to whatever hole you want. If you've got a couple of people, you can sit one way. If you have more people, you can organize them a little bit more throughout and have access to all. And then also, you're a tall guy. I had Joe Erickson. Do you know Joe?
I do not.
Joe is from Outlet Recreation.
Okay.
He was on a while back, and he's a big guy like you are, you and I are. Although I think he's quite a bit taller than me. Not necessarily you. What are you? What are you?
I'm 6'5".
6'5". All right. Well, that's impressive. So, with your pole in your hand, and you want some leg room, being able to back away from the hole a little bit. You're not sitting, on top of it. That's one of the things I really like.
Sure.
So, I think these recliners are going to become pretty popular. Of course, what do I know? But I just feel like it just gives you flexibility to be able to move about. You can still put in the tables. Like we have this table that we can either run, or this table that we can either run this way or this way.
Sure.
So it's kind of nice. And then, we've got a bunch of TVs and stuff to get, the live scope up and watch the ball game and that kind of stuff. So they've come a long way, like you said. I mean, it's not your dad's ice castle anymore. It's kind of, they're decked out. So
for sure.
What other plans do you have coming up? So you're back here, you're working full time. You got any other big mountain trips planned or anything you're gonna do?
Nothing planned yet. I'd like to make another trip or two out west yet this year, but now that we got some safe ice around here, I'm probably gonna start fishing pretty hard. So I'd say every weekend from here on out, I'll probably be going north fishing. So.
Have you heard the news that you can't pee on Red Lake?
I have. They have put quite a few different rules in place this year to kind of come.
Well, I'm in favor of the trash rule. I mean, I really want people to clean up their stuff, but I got to say I'm not a super fan of I don't know that they're going to enforce that. Do you think they will?
I don't know. That's going to be pretty tough, especially, a lot of people, like I love to bring my dog with. And, out there on the lake, he can run around, as much as he wants. And, that whole aspect of, being able to track that down and stick you with a fine or something like that is kind of far-fetched in my mind. But
sometimes they take it a little bit too far. I just don't get that, and I've heard that, I've heard from some of the people that have talked to game wardens saying, no, they're not going to really enforce it. But it was really meant to keep the lake clean in general, which I'm in favor of.
absolutely.
But I think catching someone taking a leak outside their ice castle is a little bit far fetched.
Yeah.
Speaking of characters, we've interviewed some people up there, Dave, Captain Dave, and some of the cookies and all those guys up there. There's some interesting characters up there,
For sure.
You go into West Wind. We were in West Wind, having some drinks and having some food, and just the cast of characters that come in there, and how they're intertwined, and they know each other, and they're cousins with this guy. Last time we were up, a guy pops his big old beaver mitts on the bar. Just a lot of interesting, great people up there to connect with. So
it's crazy to think though that out of that huge diverse population of people, they're all there doing the same activity though.
Yeah,
they're all there to chase the elusive walleye.
The elusive walleye, and just the amount of people that get out on the ice and the talk about ice thickness, and most of the time, it's funny. These resort owners do a very good job of keeping people informed, and the sad part is sometimes people just don't listen to them. And I think if you listen to your resort owners up there, you're going to get the scoop and not put yourself at risk. And the ice is good now, so I don't think you have a lot. Although there's still cracks and things you got to watch out for. So you got to be careful. So Alex, as someone that's kind of a professional, and you've been in the ice castle for a long period of time, you've obviously learned a lot, because if you're in anything, whether it's a house or an ice castle, and you're in cold temperatures or extreme wind conditions, you obviously learn things. You travel down the road. You took your trip out west. What are some of the things some tips or pointers that you think you could give people with their ice castles? Things to just keep your ice castle up, things like that.
I guess be prepared for anything. No matter where you go, how far, how short it is, be prepared for anything. Maintenance is one of the most important aspects to keep up on the house. I couldn't tell you how many thousands of miles I put on my house, but I've done everything from replacing the electric brakes on them. I had a wheel bearing go out on my way back from Western North Dakota. So I had a battle with that. A couple of years ago, we were up on Red Lake fishing, and we were in that 40 or 40 below weather, and the regulator on my house froze up, so I had no heat. Fortunately, I carry a big buddy heater with me, just for portable fishing or scenarios like that. So I was able to keep the house warm until I could get the regulator thawed out and everything fixed up. But you never know what to expect, and when you're on vast bodies of water and the outskirts of town and civilization, you got to be prepared to.
You got to be prepared. Do you any tips on that? What do you do? What did you do on the regulator? Any?
Nothing I could really do much on there. I took it off the propane tanks, brought it inside, thawed it out. Took a couple hours to finally get that ice out of there and get the lines dried out. Now in lieu of that, I carry a spare one with me at all times, just in case something like that happens. And then I guess I'd say in the new, in the last couple of years, there's been lots of different new products out there with propane covers that have heat tape in them with insulation. So I do have one of those. If it does get too cold, I'll plug that into the house. That keeps a constant heat source on the propane tanks and the regulators.
I think that's a great idea. In fact, we have one on ours that we have, and it's just a nice safety. That I guess it only has to keep it at like 50. I can't remember what the number was, but like 50 degrees.
Yeah, it doesn't have to stay very warm.
Just enough to take the edge off. What about, did you do any wheel covers or anything like that?
I never did. My new house, I do have them for it. I haven't used them yet. I guess I probably go above and beyond on packing the snow around the frame of my fish house. So I've been pretty fortunate to have good luck with that. But I know they are a very popular item and a good easy fix to not having to bank.
Do you have any slide outs on your new one?
I do not have any slide outs.
That's the next one. Is that, you got one lined up after this one?
I don't have one lined up yet, but I think if I were to look at upgrading, I would go with the slide out and the next one, and I'd probably put the kitchen and all the amenities of the kitchen in the slide out.
Yeah. That's nice. So, Alex, what would you say for someone that's maybe looking at getting an ice castle for your, like what you did, or maybe just they want to do some vacationing, they want to do ice fishing, maybe travel across the U.S. What would you say about your experience with your ice castles?
I'd say I'd had a very fortunate experience with them. I had no hesitations, no second thoughts on it. I would get an ice castle again and again. If you're into camping, tiny house living, anything like that, don't just automatically go to a camper and think that's what you're limited to. I guess you gotta keep an ice castle in the back of your mind, and even put it on the forefront of it, because they're very versatile and very nice now. As nice as many of the campers out there now, and you use all year long.
And they just redid their ice castle website, so you can take a look at some of the models. And I would encourage whoever you want to use for your dealer. There's lots of great ice castle dealers out there, but one of the things you can do is just decide whether you want an RV model, kind of like what you're talking about with the fancy kitchen and some of the upgrades like that, or you just want the regular ice castle, which can still have a bathroom. It's just a little more without the RV unit, all the full water hookup kind of stuff. And for some people, they don't need that. They'd rather have a little bit of that extra space just for space, right? If they're just going to ice fish and they're not going to use it for anything else, that might be something. So if you go to the website and you look at the models up top on the page, you can see, and quite frankly, a lot of people just want something quick that they can take out on their own lake. If they have a cabin, a lot of people that have their own cabin and whatnot, they want to just keep the ice castle up at their cabin, and they only need a 12-footer or something just to get in and off of the lake, and then they're going to stay inside at the cabin, for the night. So take a look at a bunch of the models that are on the website, and I always say start with the floor plan and this, kind of the budget floor plan and those types of things, and then you can add all of the amenities. And I think what I've really enjoyed working with Ice Castle is the customization that you can do. Did you? Well, you bought yours used, both of your models, but
Yep.
if you buy them new, you can customize lots of different things: the size of the beds, the lift beds, the size of if you want some slide outs, you can get those. Fireplaces, full Furrion cooktop and stove, full size refrigerator. Some people don't want a full size refrigerator and they go with just a smaller one. So check with your dealer, ask about the different accessories that you can do, and what they'll often do is they'll take the ice castle and you'll just take a drawing of the base model, and then you just kind of move stuff around the way you want it, and bingo, you've got yourself what you're looking for. So I'd like to once again thank our sponsors, Granite City Motor Car and Reed's, the great people up at both Reed's and Granite City Motor Car, for sponsoring the show. And again, as always, if you have an idea, I don't care if it's, what kind of an idea it is. If you have a way that you want to talk about the living the ice castle life, or you want to talk about fishing, or whatever you want to talk about, go ahead and put it in the comments below, and we can maybe do a podcast on it. So just helping this thing grow. And remember, if you feel so obliged, hit the like and subscribe button below. And Alex, thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure learning about your 4 years of ice castle living out in the Dakotas. Good luck on Red Lake this weekend. Hopefully you bring home a bunch of nice fat walleyes.
That's always the goal.
All right. Thanks again for watching. We'll catch you next time on the Road with Ice Castle.